The stage is dim, the crowd murmuring in anticipation, when a lone muscle car appears under the spotlight, its engine not revving, but humming low, like the start of a storm. Kendrick Lamar steps out, not with bombast, but with the quiet gravity of a man who knows exactly where he's been, and more importantly, where he's going. The Grand National Experience, known as the GNX Tour, is not merely a concert. It's an artistic reckoning, a spiritual interrogation, and a message wrapped in 808s and lyricism. Welcome to Celebrity Cookies, where the tea is always hot and the stories come with sprinkles of surprise. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment with your take on the story. It's also the most personal Kendrick has ever felt on stage. 4 years, Kendrick Lamar has been one of the most revered figures in hip-hop, not for courting the spotlight, but for his refusal to let it define him. When Section .80 dropped in 2011, critics hailed him as a thoughtful newcomer, a socially conscious voice at a time when rap often drifted into escapism. But it was Good Kid, Mad City that made him a prophet. His words painted portraits of Compton streets, of survival, of family dysfunction and divine intervention, with the grace of a novelist and the fury of a preacher. And yet, even then, Kendrick remained elusive. He didn't seek fame. He didn't show up to every red carpet. His social media presence was sparse. He didn't let the industry mold him into a product. That aversion to visibility was often mistaken for shyness, but it was something more profound. Kendrick wasn't hiding, he was observing. Fame for him was never the destination, it was a side effect. A condition he'd tolerate only if it helped him say what he needed to say. The GNX Tour, co-headlined with the celestial and genre-bending SZA, marks a pivotal chapter in this ongoing narrative. It's not just about Kendrick reclaiming his space in music, it's about transformation. It's about growing into a different kind of leader. Not one who commands attention, but one who uses it like a prism, splitting light, refracting stories, amplifying others. The format alone tells the story. In most joint tours, there's a clear hierarchy. One artist opens, the other closes. Sometimes they share the stage for a song or two, but the structure remains rigid. Not here. Kendrick and SZA have completely rewritten the rules. The GNX Tour unfolds like a conversation. They trade 20-minute sets back and forth, looping in and out of each other's energies like jazz musicians riffing off a central theme. One moment, Kendrick is unraveling a dense verse from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. The next, SZA is levitating over the audience with the dreamy vulnerability of a control ballad. Each return to the stage isn't a reset, it's a continuation. There's a kind of sacred geometry in their transitions. SZA floats through the fog like a vision, grounding her performances in the emotional core of her lyrics. Her songs often feel like confessions whispered into the void, yet they carry the weight of communal truths. She doesn't just sing, she excavates. And Kendrick, in turn, channels that energy back through his precision, his poise, his fire and brimstone urgency. It's not competition. It's communion. When they perform together, the temperature shifts. Tracks like All the Stars become more than hits, they become rituals, acknowledgments of shared purpose. On Doves in the Wind, they toy with vulnerability, flipping gender narratives in real time. And when SZA steps in to perform the hook on Kendrick's Love, she doesn't just fill a space, she transforms it. Her voice lifts the song into something almost celestial, revealing emotional layers that even Kendrick, in his solitude, couldn't fully express. This isn't a greatest hits tour. It's a thesis. At the heart of Kendrick's portion of the GNX experience lies a kind of performance art. He opens the show by stepping out of the Grand National, a muscle car featured prominently on his album cover. The vehicle serves as more than a prop. It's a motif, a symbol of American power, masculinity, speed, and identity. As the car rotates on stage or projects visuals across its hood, Kendrick uses it to navigate themes of legacy, mobility, and revolution. It's as if he's inviting the audience into his psyche, showing them what's under the hood. The set design is minimal but haunting. No flashy pyrotechnics, no gimmicks, just stark lighting, symbolic visuals, and choreography that feels more like spiritual movement than entertainment. Kendrick's dancers mirror his emotions, expanding his inner world into a collective expression. At one point, They mimic breaking free from invisible shackles as Kendrick recites lines from The Heart Part 5, blurring the lines between sermon and spectacle. He doesn't say much between songs. He doesn't need to. Each performance is its own speech. His setlist spans every era of his career, but nothing feels nostalgic. Even older tracks, like Mad City or Alright, are delivered with renewed urgency, updated for the current moment. Kendrick isn't reliving his past. He's reassessing it, reclaiming it, using it as a foundation to build something new. Of course, the ghost hovering over the GNX Tour is the ongoing tension with Drake. Their rivalry, always simmering beneath the surface, finally exploded into public view with Kendrick's recent releases, Euphoria, and Not Like Us chief among them. Diss tracks, clever wordplay, and targeted shots reignited debates across the hip-hop world. Was this beef personal, artistic, strategic? And yet, Kendrick doesn't linger on it. He weaves those tracks into his set not as acts of aggression, but as acknowledgments, as punctuation marks at the end of a long sentence. When he performs Not Like Us, there's a palpable electricity in the air, but it's not vengeful, it's victorious. He's not punching down. He's closing a chapter. His expression, his delivery, his pacing all suggest the same thing. This part of the story is over. In doing so, Kendrick reclaims control over the narrative. The GNX Tour isn't about beef. It's about building. While the media may cling to drama, Kendrick and SZA are out here crafting something far more complex and lasting, a blueprint for artistic autonomy. They're showing what happens when artists stop playing by the industry's rules and start making their own. That ethos extends to everything, from the merch designs to the visual interludes projected during the show. Instead of showcasing their own faces or branding, the visuals feature everyday people, historical footage, abstract art. The message is clear. This isn't about idol worship. It's about reflection. Kendrick and SZA are simply the conduits. The audience, too, plays a different role here. At most concerts, fans come to be entertained, to sing along, to escape. But the GNX crowd leans in. They're engaged, attentive. It feels more like a gathering than a performance, an exchange rather than a display. People don't just scream the lyrics, they consider them. It's a rare dynamic in modern music, where attention spans are short and spectacle often eclipses substance. There's something sacred in the slowness Kendrick embraces. Most artists rush through their sets, squeezing in as many songs as possible. But Kendrick lets silence do some of the talking. He allows pauses to linger. He gives the audience space to breathe. That kind of patience feels radical in a world that demands constant noise. It's in those moments of quiet that Kendrick's true power becomes clear. He's no longer just telling his story, he's inviting others to tell theirs. That's where the tour's genius lies. It's not just Kendrick's evolution we're witnessing, it's a new model for what fame can look like. One that isn't rooted in ego but in empathy. One that doesn't revolve around dominance, but around dialogue. One where the stage is shared, not owned. And that's why the GNX Tour matters. Not because it's flashy, not because it's a comeback, but because it reflects something rare, growth without compromise, leadership without narcissism, vision without vanity. Kendrick and SZA are showing that it's possible to succeed in the spotlight without letting it swallow you whole. For Kendrick, this feels like a homecoming, not to a place but to a purpose. He's no longer the hesitant superstar of a decade ago. He's a craftsman, a curator, a cultural architect. And while the GNX Tour may not offer all the answers, it asks all the right questions. About fame, about freedom, about who we become when we stop performing and start connecting. And as the final note of the encore echoes through the venue and the lights fade, there's no confetti, no pyrotechnics. Just the quiet hum of the Grand National idling once more. Kendrick climbs back into the driver's seat, the headlights piercing the darkness. He doesn't wave. He doesn't bow. He just drives off into the night, leaving behind something far more lasting than applause. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation, so please share your opinions in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on the story.